Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. In this video we're going to be taking a first look at Gold Mythic Jeremiah James, who is going to be the next Advanced Mythic Wheel character to be released in RTS. Visually, Jeremiah James looks really cool. I think this is the second, maybe the third edition of Jeremiah. I think we had an alert way back when in the 6-star era was Outlast, I believe. But I think this edition looks pretty cool. I think the S-Class version had like a hoodie. I think Jeremiah always has been an interesting character. A bit of a nuts character when it comes to the storyline, but otherwise, visually, and always been looking pretty good. And if we look on the left-hand side, we can sort of see him looking even more crazy. I think it looks like he's standing in fire as it is. Very interesting indeed. I do like Jeremiah quite a lot. I think there's been pretty good characters of him in the past. We'll see what this one has to offer when we look at his stats at level 1440, maxed out at limit break 3. He has got 15,728 attack, 23,593 defense, and 39,321 HP. He is a fast character, of course, holding that dagger on the right hand side. He is a tank. He's of course a mythic character, and he is going to join the Woodbury Allegiance. Quite a late join to Woodbury Allegiance, but he is going to just buff out the Woodbury Allegiance a little bit. And there potentially is some Woodbury characters in there that could buff Jeremiah. I can't remember if there are any Woodbury buffs, but someone will have to remind me. Okay, first up we'll look at Jeremiah James's Adrenaline Rush, and it is called Dominate. It is a 66 AP cost rush. Deals 600% damage to 2 enemies. 2 enemies other than the primary target get impaired for 2 turns. So the first part of this is interesting, the fact that it does actual dealing damage to 2 enemies. This guy is a tank. His attack damage wasn't super high, and you would assume that he'd probably be used on a defense team. But if he hits the right characters, and if he's doing trait damage, it should do reasonably significant damage. The second half is interesting because the primary target isn't gonna get the impair. And I'm not really sure why that would be. I guess it potentially is if they get taken out. But I think potentially if they were to be taken out and they would apply the impair there, it would generally go to someone else anyway. But it is interesting. It does mean there's complete RNG on those 2 impairs. It can land on the most terrible characters on your attack team and just completely disable you for 2 turns, because that's obviously going to stop you from doing your adrenaline rushes. Impair is quite powerful, I would say, just because I don't think too many people use impair resist on attack teams unless they have teams specifically set up for attacking like tough defense teams. Jeremiah James is not going to be on those teams, so he could be like that nice little pick on a defense team where he's going to be like putting out that ultra effective debuff onto enemies. Impair is going to work very well potentially from Jeremiah James here. Okay, so we're attacking and we have got Jeremiah on a defense team. He is going to use that adrenaline rush. And this is primarily just to see how the impair works, just to see, if it is RNG or so, whatever. The rush is going to come in and he's going to hit one of the tough characters, which makes sense. He's going to hit Mateo. He also hits Scotsman, but Scotsman was not the primary target. And that means one of the other 4 characters other than Mateo would get impaired, and it landed on Scotsman and it landed on Duck. This would obviously mean that I couldn't use their rushes if I had their rushes up. The impair is going to be very effective. And it lasts for 2 turns, so like it'll be this turn and the next turn. So it'll be the 3rd turn when I could potentially rush again if I had my AP available, or even to just gain AP. That's exactly how impair works. It even stops you from gaining AP. So we'll look at the upgrades on this Adrenaline Rush, and you can see at grade 3 it gets a 300% damage boost. So it goes from 300% damage up to 600% damage to 2 enemies. Then at grade 5 it gets an upgrade where 1 other enemy gets impair for 2 turns. So initially there's no impair on this, and that's when the impair comes in. And at limit break 2 it gets 2 targets for the impair for 2 turns, other than the actual person who gets rushed. So very interesting in terms of what this is doing from a defense team's perspective. I wouldn't necessarily see this as that big a deal when it comes to the damage, more of just a bonus. I personally do prefer things like maim, bleed, burn, damage based on your HP, damage based on your defense, rather than just flat attack or flat deal damage from a defense team character, just because then you can manipulate it. But sometimes that can get too kind of powerful in itself. So it isn't necessarily a bad thing that this isn't going to happen every single time. I would see this more of as a character who's going to do some in pairs, and the damage is just a little bit of a bonus added on top. Now next up, we're going to look at Jeremiah's signature move, and it is called Subjugate. It is a turn 1 signature move with a 2-turn cooldown. Number of uses unlimited. 2 enemies get minus 50% AP for 2 turns. While battling on the defense team, those enemies get normalized for 2 turns. So the first half of this is interesting, new dynamic in terms of how the AP is going to be working. They're going to get minus 50% for 2 turns. This means a 66 AP character on an attack team will lose 33 AP per turn. Very interesting indeed, and that'll be their entire rush over those 2 turns as well. Pretty brutal. While Jeremiah's on the defense team, those enemies will also get normalized. So really nice specialist skill that could combat this would be, for instance, Kenny, where he has follow-up 2. You could take someone out, get 100% AP, rush, and then obviously, you know, you're sorted. Whereas this is not going to allow that to happen, because if you take someone out, there's not going to be any AP gain because he is normalized. So this is to combat any sneaky specialists like that. But it's also counter things like commands, which generally would be able to like support characters with the minus AP. So this is actually going to be kind of infuriating. Let's say if it lands on your damage dealer and they get minus 50 AP to go down to 33, then they do their signature move to go back up to max, but they need to be commanded, but the other AP down and normalized landed on your command. Now they can no longer command. Pretty brutal indeed. Okay, so Jeremiah is going to do his signature move, and 2 of my characters can get normalized. They're also going to lose 50% of their max AP instantly, and then it should be 50% again at the beginning of the next turn. So it should effectively be almost straight away there'll be 100% losing AP. So we'll defend. You can see the 2 characters that got it were William and Wanderer. William's gone down to 5. Wanderer's gone down to 0. And they have got 1 more turn on that AP down, as you can see. And they're normalized for 2 turns. You can actually see the number again with the AP drain they've got, 28 and 33. So it does get rounded up on a 55 AP character. We'll do a little bit of damage here. Hopefully it won't take these characters out. Actually, it doesn't matter if I take this character out. Now you can see I've got AP back, right? But at the beginning of the next turn, I think Wanderer is going to go down to 0 again. Is that right? Yeah, and then William's going to go down to like 5. Yeah, there we go. Brutal. Now we'll go straight into the upgrades on the signature move, and you can see it gets an additional minus 25% AP at grade 2, so it goes from 25% up to 50% minus AP. And at grade 4 it gets an upgrade where while battling on the defense team, those enemies get normalized for 2 turns, so that is going to be the increase. But at limit break 1 it gets an AP drain and normalized target. So initially it is only 1 target for both, but then it's going to go up to 2 targets for both. That is actually massive. LB1 seems very important. Starting cooldown of turn 1 seems pretty good as well, and you're going to get that LB3. So I'd say this is a signature move that requires pretty much LB3 of the character to get the best usage. And for sure, being able to do this on turn 1 on defense just stops the turn 2 nuke that could potentially come in on an attack team. If you remove very specific specialist skills off of characters, like I say, like Kenny, like Brutus, the damage that they will do is going to be drastically reduced. So quite a powerful signature move here, and the fact that it's turn 1 is going to be very problematic. If you do get your hands on this character, you're going to want to protect this, I feel. Daze Resist is going to be a must. Now we're going to be doing a giveaway in this video, guys, as he is an Advanced Mythic character. We're going to be giving away Advanced Mythic tokens. You can win yourself 10,000 Advanced Mythic tokens for first place. Second place will get 5,000, and third place will get 5,000 as well. Top 3 winners will be drawn on my live stream next Monday. To enter, all you have to do is type crazy in the comments down below. Make it part of a full sentence so you don't get spammed out by YouTube, and that will get you entered into the giveaway. Best of luck. Now back to the video. Now next up is going to be Jeremiah James's mythic abilities. These are his passive skills, and of course he is going to have strength because he is a tank, and that is going to be 40% critical hit resistance. The next passive is called Denounce. At the start of each wave, 100% chance 2 medic role enemies get disarmed for 3 turns. This is reasonably powerful. There are quite a few people who run medics on attack teams. I think primarily Vance, to be honest. but there are quite a few people who run medics on attack teams. Maybe also William. Is William a medic? I think actually he's support. So I think this is primarily just going to be combating characters like Vance and maybe Molly as attack team medics. Next up, we're going to look at Midnight Mass. At the start of each wave, while battling on a defense team, 100% chance 3 tough enemies get 5,000 exhaust for 2 turns. This is countering Easter Eva pretty much, who's going to get the AP boost from her specialist skill, where she gets 50% AP at the beginning of her turn, and generally speaking that would be 25,000 damage that she's going to take from exhaust. That's a lot of damage. A lot of damage dealers don't have enough HP to sort of deal with that, and that will bypass Guardian Shields as well. Now the last passive is called Blood Right. When being attacked, this character heals for 50% of their max HP, except when at max HP. So obviously the first attack that comes in, you could potentially get this character down to 80% max HP. The next character that attacks could potentially do another 15%, bring that character down to minus 35% HP. But that second attack would proc this passive, heal Jeremiah all the way back up to 100%. These healing passives are generally quite powerful. Now Jeremiah is not a medic, so he's not going to get any bonus HP bonuses off of this. But because of other parts of his kit, namely his specialist skill, it is going to basically give him some nice self-sustain. And that is going to be problematic when it comes to taking Jeremiah James out. Now I actually forgot that Easter Eva was also a medic. It's kind of strange, but she is also a medic. So she is also going to be disarmed by Jeremiah James. You can see she's also got 24,566 HP, and 50% of her AP gain will be 25,000 me. Basically, this looks like it's going to be a character, Jeremiah at least, to come in to fully counter Easter Eva. It potential one-shot her based on her base HP, and it will also disarm her 3rd slot on her weapon, which is the Tank Buster bonus, which is basically what she brings to the table as a damage dealer. So if we start the fight, I'll gain the AP and I'll be one shot. It's as simple as that. 50% of my AP will be 5 times 5,000 exhaust, and that'll be 25,000 damage, and Easter Eva has just under 25,000 HP. Now if she did survive because I gave her a HP mod, or if I had exhaust resist, I'd be disarmed. And then I'd obviously not have that Tank Buster weapon working. And that is pretty much the primary reason you use Easter Eva, is for the Tank Buster weapon. The fact that it can nuke tanks really nicely is good. And that does mean that Jeremiah James can be kind of put into teams with other tanks that were susceptible to being nuked before. For instance, Imani and Sebastian Milton, this sort of thing. Now check out the upgrades on the passives here, and you can see at grade 1, Jeremiah gets the first half of Denounce. That's 50% chance that medic role characters get disarmed for 3 turns. At grade 2, he gets the first half of Strength, 20% critical hit resistance. Grade 3, 100% chance with that Denounce. 2 comes in for the medic disarm, which is obviously great. At grade 4, you're going to get the first half of Midnight Mass, which is 50% chance 3 tough enemies get 5,000 exhaust for 2 turns. And at grade 5, you're going to get the first half of Blood Right, and that is going to be 20% heal when Jeremiah James gets attacked and is not max HP. When we move into the limit breaks, you can see that we're going to get the 20% critical hit resistance add-on at strength with LB1. LB2, second half of Midnight Mass, and that is going to be a 100% chance 3 tough enemies get 5,000 exhaust for 2 turns. And at limit break 3, Blood Right goes up to a 50% heal, except when Jeremiah is max HP. I think Jeremiah's passives are nice, and I think they're obviously combating Easter Eva here. It kind of feels obvious. A one-man counter. The fact that he's a tank as well is kind of rub it in the face of your Evas. The fact that you can't really do much against him with Eva is basically going to make Jeremiah James a little bit more powerful, where I think a lot of people would look at tanks before and go, well, Easter Eva can just destroy this tank. It's not much of a problem. It's going to be a bit harder now. You can, of course, team up Jeremiah James with so many different tanks. I talked about Imani and Sebastian Milton, but there's so many others. You can use, for instance, Peacekeeper in that team as well. Another tank who can get blown up by Easter Eva pretty easily. So there are definitely some nice characters that Jeremiah James can be paired up with, basically taking advantage of these passives as well. Now Jeremiah James obviously has a specialist skill in his Bide, and I'll just read through it. It's this character stores the damage it takes from attacks, active abilities and rushes after storing damage equal to 30% of the max HP, or if the defend action is used, deal 150% of stored damage to one enemy immediately. Stored damage is reset to 0 after use. Bide does not trigger if this character is killed. And generally speaking, this is quite a nice specialist skill, but it's even nicer the fact that he has got ways to heal himself back up within his kit. Self-sustain is very important. This is what made Steve quite a good Bide character as well, and Jeremiah James has got the same kind of deal. 50% heal is nice. Obviously, if you team him up with medics as well, he can just have healing on top, bonus HP, all that good stuff. So yeah, Bide is nice. He doesn't have any way to force people to attack him, but you never know what comes out. You never know what comes out. He has not got an attached weapon, which we will just talk about in a second, but you never know. There could be a weapon that comes out that has like taunt on it or something, and it's fast, and then straight away slots into Jeremiah James's hands really nicely. So yeah, moving on to that weapon. No attached weapon. You could put whatever weapon you want in his hands. Because he is a Bide character, you could potentially go for that Wang Fa weapon that was in the Mythic Market. It doesn't have absolute defense on it, but it does have bonuses to defense. So if you do get attacked, you also get attacked for less. And you can see the fact that he's a Bide as the reason why he'd be a non-window. That could potentially be a way to go. It's obviously up to you. You could still use absolute defense and just try and utilize the fact that he's either going to not take any damage, or if he does take damage, he's going to build Bide. There isn't any real downside to a weapon like that, in my opinion. So that is Gold Mythic Jeremiah James, and as I said, he is the next character to be joining the Advanced Mythic Token Wheel. I think he's a pretty good tank. He obviously has his role within the defense teams. It's to basically keep these other tanks alive, and obviously Jeremiah James himself, against the rampant Easter Eva, who is definitely a problem against tanks for sure. Do tell me your thoughts on Jeremiah James as a character. What do you think of his visuals? Are you a Jeremiah fan? You know, you're one of the crazies? Let me know in the comments down below. That is the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.